Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. I hope life is treating you very well and kind. Here in Perth, Western Australia, which is where I live, the weather has actually been very challenging, shall we say. I love the rain. I always appreciate the rain because, of course, we live in such an arid climate. But the bottom line is when it rains every day for about 2 weeks and you only get to see the blue sky every now and again, it feels like a real challenge for me. Before I go any further, though, if you're new to the channel, I hope that you'll find the content interesting and at least gain something out of it for you. If you're a returning visitor, thank you so much for your ongoing support. I try to, as a human being, retain the focus on delivering something that I hope you'll find of value and not to base my ego on whether or not people subscribe to the channel or if I get many views or comments. Thank God for that, really, because I don't actually get a lot of them. And I do see the subscribers going up and down. And if my ego was ruled by that, it could actually be a little bit alarming. But either way, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to say, look, if you like the content, please do click a like. Please do consider saying hello to me. That does help me out with the YouTube algorithm. Let me know where you're from. Please do let me know the kind of content that you're looking for, because I can easily adapt and accommodate the style of content that I'm delivering to give to other people. And for me, I thrive on sharing information with people that helps them to actually expand upon themselves. I also really enjoy giving information to people who might be skeptics that helps them to, I guess, open up their mind to the fact that there actually might be something greater than themselves, and it could be worth actually experimenting with energy and developing themselves, because this is the bottom line. But anyway, getting on to it, I hope that your life has been full of blessings this week, that the weather has been nicer and more pleasant for you than what we've actually had here. I'm just grateful we don't have snow and ice, thank God for that. Every now and again, you might hear a little bit of thumping. I don't know if you heard that. That's my dear little puppy, who's not quite a baby. He's more like a toddler at the moment, and he likes to roar through and squeak a toy from time to time. Such is life. Anyway, look, today I'm going to be talking about a few different things, primarily about how to promote and develop your own awareness. But at the same time, I want to share with you, I've got a little bit of internal conflict happening today, because you may have seen on the news that we have had a judgment decision that impacts all of us, and it may actually impact globally. And I haven't really had the time yet to fully focus or reflect upon what I feel in regard to this judgment decision. But it's definitely one that's going to have long-reaching consequences for Australians, if not globally. So, of course, the issue that I'm referring to is actually the judgment in the case of what they call Tickle Vs Giggle. If you're not aware of it, it truly is a case that's gone to court. And it was because I think her name's Grover. She made a decision to exclude a male to female, what do they call them, transgender, from her women's only website. Now, I'm not going to go into the detail of it too much here. I'm going to actually go into the background and then come back to my concerns, shall we say, before I move on. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this subject, because I think it's got the capacity to really bog us down as far as, if we live by the truth of what we believe, which is focus on good and light and love, then we do acknowledge and recognise that there is things that will cause us conflict, but we choose not to stay in that conflict space, and we choose to move past it onto more positive things. And this is what I aim to do with this video today. Anyway, I've put this image up here because this refers to my belief and my understanding of energy. What we have in the middle here is the feng shui symbol, which is, of course, has got the black and the white, and you can see the red around it. Now, I mean, it's not the best image in the world, but it was one that I was able to find straight off the bat. Now, when we refer to energy, of course, if you're not aware of this topic, I do have other videos up. I don't know, you'd have to go through the playlist and see which ones they were. If you want to know, ask me, I'll find the link and I'll put it up. But I do have other videos talking about the feng shui symbol and what that actually means. Now, what the feng shui symbol in essence is reflecting is the black aspect refers to feminine energy or aspects. What has for decades and decades, millennia, The black refers to the feminine qualities which are associated with mothering, nurturing, compassion, love, the gentler aspects of life that we need for growth. So it's about nurturing, whereas the white refers to the masculine qualities or the divine masculine energies. And when we talk about this, yes, it is gender stereotypes, but it doesn't mean that any one of us, from a biological perspective, is stuck within these stereotypes. Because if you look at the white and the black, each of them has a spot of the opposing, okay? Because remember, life is about polar opposites as well. So within the black, you can see that, let's say we were talking about a biological female who is born representing and reflecting the divine feminine. She carries masculine attributes in her. Now, the way she lives her life will determine, is she more of a provider and protector than a nurturer? She can be that. She still has a female body. The same goes for the masculine. He is white. He's got a little bit of black inside of him. This would talk about the gender stereotypes of men that tend to repress their emotions and not acknowledge them, because historically, biologically, they are prepared as defenders, and also hunt food and all of that kind of stuff. You've got the provide and protect elements, or energies associated with the divine masculine. Now, the colour red and that little, 6-8 octagon around this particular symbol, the black and the white, that is reflective of life, okay? Base. If you were looking at the chakra system, you would see that the base chakra is red, and this is about procreation of the species, I guess, is one way of doing it. And that to be able to procreate, we need to have safe and healthy environments for us to develop the aspects of ourselves as individuals in union with other people. Hopefully I'm actually articulating this correctly. So where I'm going with this is, this symbol reflects what some of us would call the law of nature, and even universal law applies to this symbol. And it is not limiting in any way, shape or form, because we have choices in how we live. We can be a highly masculine type female in a female body. We can be a very gentle, soft, nurturing, kind, loving man in the masculine body. Okay, so we're not locked into any of this. Where I start to have a little concern about this judgment decision, and I'll just have to pause for a moment while I reflect and hopefully articulate this in ways that is not offensive to people. I might just now give the background on the case, okay? So apparently Sal Grover was attempting to create an online platform for women to be able to connect to each other. And by this, I mean biological women, to be able to have that safe space, to find flatmates, to advocate, support each other emotionally with any of the challenges that they might find in their lives. Now, it's not a new thing. I'm going to get a little bit political here, because I did do my social work degree. So I'm going to say this kind of knowledge and understanding that women have special needs that can only be met by other women goes back, I think, to at least the 1980s, when it was actually the United Nations delivered the Convention on Women's Rights, and they decided, and Australia was a signatory to this as well, they decided in recognition that women needed to have a safe space to be able to connect with each other. So I have a bit of confusion going on there, that the Human Rights Commission, which is actually in Australia, is overseen, if you like, by the UN, and they have made this ruling against the Convention on Women's Rights. This is just my thought to start with. But either way, Tickle, the ladies, the male to female transgender, I'll call her a lady because that's what she identifies as, although obviously she also is outspoken with the fact, well, it's right out there anyway, that she's not a biological woman. But anyway, Tickle was denied access to this particular platform because she looks like a man. And Sal Grover saw a photo of her, because to be able to join this website, you've actually got to put your photograph up. And when Sal saw her photograph, she recognised that this was not a biological woman. So I'm throwing in some terms here. And she excluded her. Now, okay, so this is where the issues start to come in for me with a judgment decision happening. In the first instance, allegedly, the judge apparently stopped short of apologising to Selgrover for ruling against her right to be able to hold to create a platform that was focused purely on biological women. But where the things come in for me from a spiritual, energetic perspective is, to start with, step by step, we all have a divine plan. Now, I'm not privy to the divine plan. Of course, these are my beliefs and understandings of all people, but my understanding is that we are all born in the perfect image and construction of the divine I. Okay, we're talking about God's creation, and we are born either male or female. Now, we have choices apparently with the divine plan. Once again, I say this is my understanding. And we can live how we choose, as I discussed with the feng shui symbol. We can choose to live and identify as a male or a female upon earth. This has always been the case. This is the law of nature, okay? But the other thing too is my understanding that we are all born as atomic particles, if you like. We have the masculine and feminine counterpart to ourselves. So when we're created, this is where this saying of the twin flame comes in. So if we were looking at this symbol here of the feng shui with the black and the white, you could pretty well say, okay, that's the ova splitting. You know, if you were having twins physically, you've got two little entities there. And with the atom, we've got a twin flame or a twin spirit. This is my understanding. And one aspect is going to be male and one is going to be female. Now, the other part of my belief, and this is information that I've gathered over many years of reflecting, research, studying, trying to get an understanding of spiritual law and the process of creation, if we like. And of course, I'm always very careful to say, just because I believe this to be true doesn't mean that I have and hold the whole and entire truth. Okay, there's always going to be variations, and you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But what I understand is that, and this is once again my belief, is we have more than one life, and throughout all these multiple lives, there will be lives where sometimes we are born as a male and sometimes we're born as a female, even though we were created as that first atom, perhaps as the female. So I could be a female spirit in a masculine body and vice versa, is where I'm going. Okay, now my understanding is that when we're born into these bodies, that we have a divine plan. And so let's say I'm born as a female into a male's body. Actually, that might be a little bit close to home, bearing the... Okay, let's say I am a male. No. Let's say I'm a male spirit born into a female's body on Earth, that I'm not comfortable with my body. I feel like it's not right, it doesn't fit, it doesn't sit with me comfortably. And so therefore I present to the world as a male, you know, and this has been going on for hundreds and thousands of years as well. Historically, I might have received some really intense discrimination in the Western world. Other cultures apparently didn't worry about it, from what I understand too. They just accepted, you know. You had Native American warriors, allegedly, who would wear women's clothing when they weren't actually at war, and who married and had children, and all of this kind of thing. This is getting to be very long. Anyway, where I'm going with this is, I've never cared. You know, in the 21st century, I don't think anybody really cares if a man wants to dress up as a woman, how they identify themselves, and vice versa. You know, that's their personal business. It's none of our beeswax how these people choose to live their life. Now, under my understandings of spiritual law as well, I don't have the right to dictate to those people anyway how they present themselves and how they identify. That would be intrusive and invasive. But this ruling has now raised issues, you know. This issue of male to female and female to male is a new situation in the 21st century. And this is because we have men or women who are playing God with people's bodies. I think the first question that lies there is why? Why would men or women choose to play God with people's bodies? And is this an ego-based thing? Is this about them or the people that they're operating on? Now, remember, I do have a playlist dedicated to universal law and spiritual law, as I understand it to be. There's also laws of karma, remember. Sorry about the doggy. What we do is going to bounce back on us. We will receive consequences to our actions and decisions. But anyway, so going back to it, are these doctors and that playing with the law of nature and playing with spiritual law? What kind of risks have they got? Now, equally, the concerns come in when we have a judge making a decision and saying we must do X and Y to accommodate this person's needs. Our judges now playing with spiritual law and universal law. It's deeply concerning, and then it brings me into, because I'm human, I have a little bit of anxiety about it. Where does this kind of judgment decision leave Australians going forward? Where does it leave us within our religious and spiritual practice? What about, historically, we have cultures, including the Aboriginal Australian culture, where they have sacred men's and sacred women's business, and where clearly that is gender exclusive. You cannot have a man go to sacred woman's business and vice versa, because that breaks their spiritual law. And then it becomes a case of, down the track in future, is there going to be issues for me actually having a conversation about masculine and feminine energy? And is this going to impact on people such as myself who might want to run a circle on talking about the divine feminine? We might want to run women's circles. They're very common. Does this mean that we can no longer do that? Because the point being that there are experiences that are only experiences that only women can have. Okay, it doesn't mean that women are going to have all of the experiences of being a woman, but there are experiences that men cannot have and that people that are transgender cannot have, as far as so if you were talking male to female, Roxanne, that was her name, Roxanne Tickle, that Roxanne can never have. She will never be able to have certain feminine experiences because she has been born as a biological male. Equally, there are experiences that some female to male transgender will never be able to have as a male because they were born biologically female. But at the same time, with respect and recognition to those people that have chosen the pathway of transgender, there is going to be situations and experiences and events that they have that we as women or men that are born biologically women or men will never understand or know or whatever. My logic tends to run to, and I'm being logical here, and I like to think I'm putting my heart into this as well, is that perhaps a better option would have been to create dedicated places and spaces to the health of psychological, emotional, and healthy space for those people that are transgender, rather than forcing our will on non-receptive parties. Either way, anyway, I'm going to leave that with you and crack on. I spent far too much time on this slide and I never intended to. But please do let me know your thoughts. When you write your comments up though, please remember there is censorship and we do have to be mindful to be respectful and considerate to other people. We don't need to get nasty and toxic. But I'm definitely interested in your thoughts and what the implications might be for Australians or for you around this judgment decision. So, before this judgment came down and decided to talk about the divine masculine and divine feminine, I should mention the reason the case was actually called Tickle Vs Giggle is because Giggle was the name of the platform and the person that was suing the platform was called Roxanne Tickle, if I remember her name rightly. So this conversation or topic about spiritual teachers and gurus has come up because I'm at the moment on the lookout trying to find a new group in my local area where I can connect with people and do some meditation in a group setting. Now, I used to run group meditation classes and I haven't done it for a long time, and I actually don't want to have the responsibility of running and coordinating the group. Now, where I'm going with this is apparently I am so out of touch because I haven't done it for such a long time. I have been absolutely shocked and startled by the prices that some of these people are charging. I'm talking about the group leaders, what they coordinate. There's not a lot of hardship, I must say, in running a meditation session. But anyway, it raises questions for me too. So this week I'm actually, I think, battling with a bit of judgment. I'm trying not to be judgmental, but I do question if these people that are running these groups and these spiritual teachers and people that like to think of themselves as gurus, if they've got a really inflated sense of self and ego, because some of these prices are exorbitant. And my understanding too as a teacher is that when we talk about teaching wisdom and sharing it, it comes down to this space of love, care, and love energy. Okay. Energy and love is free. Anybody can access it at any time. And if we're talking about harnessing the power of energy, then it's a matter of doing things like what I do here, which is share the tips and strategies. Look, it's taken me a long time to get to the desire to return to a group activity, but I'm actually aiming to find people with a like mind, such as myself. But when I see that people, I'm talking about the spiritual teachers, are charging about $50 a session, for a sound bath, that was one of the things I was looking at doing. For a sound bath where you sit there and you listen to a played CD or whatever, so they've bought the equipment, but they might have 30 people sitting in the class. It's like, do you really? I mean, 2 hours for a sound bath. Who thinks that they're entitled to about $1,500 for 2 hours work? This is why I'm questioning the prices that people are charging. Then I saw a woman's circle. This is why one of the reasons why I've got the conflict on the previous slide, where they were charging $250 a head for a few hours. Oh, anyway, I've got a bit of a problem with it. I think part of the reason why I'm sort of recoiling at these prices that these people are charging is because it's like, where do they get this idea that they are worth that much? The people that are charging $500 an hour, or what equates to $1,000 an hour, where do they actually get this idea that that is how much they are actually worth? I mean, I obviously have got my degree, my Bachelor of Social Work. I've done part of almost a complete Masters of Counselling. I just didn't do my field placement. But I know people that have got degrees in psychology and all sorts of specialist professions, shall we say, that have taken years and years. I'm not saying that it makes them brilliant or whatever. Where I'm going with this is, if I was to hire the services of a qualified professional, there's no guarantee they're going to be good at their job either. But not a lot of them will charge you over $400 an hour, especially here in Australia. But we can see people that might have been working with energy for 2 years who have this inflated sense of self and think they're a master and that they can charge $1,000 an hour. I don't know about that. Same with people that charge for their readings, if they're doing tarot readings and all the rest of it. If I had to pay $200 for a reading, I would want to have actually my divine path mapped out in gold on it. But I am, of course, talking about a problem that is not a new problem for any of us. And the thing is, I think the best thing any of us can actually be doing is when we're trying to find that group, that we put it out to the universe, that we find the perfect group, the perfect teacher, the perfect mentor at the perfect price, at the perfect way, at the divine time, something like that, okay? And then be open to meeting that person, because I should actually put up a video in the near future, perhaps of giving you ways of identifying whether or not a person is as good as what they say they are, because not all people that purport to be teachers and gurus are actually particularly enlightened. In my experience, and I've met a lot of them, there are some that actually they might have gifts, say, of psychic vision. They might be able to channel messages to you and all the rest of it, but they are still very base people. Focused, obviously, when we talk about this financial and this overcharging for our services, inflated sense of self, that's all stuff, ego stuff, down in the base chakra. Okay, so that should be the first warning bell, is where I'm going. And the second stuff is if they're focused on the act of, I was just going to use a word that starts with S, but it is YouTube and there are censorships. Let's just say they become a little bit obsessive about procreation, and not necessarily with an end product, but the act as opposed to the ending. Well, I suppose in some ways they're fixated on the ending, but not necessarily there we go, not the creation so much as the activity. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, where shall I go with this? Basically, I think that you can actually identify who is a really good teacher, if not from their energy, simply through their actions and their words. And also, if you feel such as me, where I actually, do you know what, I feel a little bit more peaceful about myself. I'm seeing these things happening, but I haven't actually been attracted or drawn to attending any of these groups where there's this clearly inflated sense of ego. So that makes me feel a bit better about my energy, because remember, like attracts like, okay? Now, just to put things into perspective, when I used to do my meditation groups, it was done by donation. And back in the day, we're going back quite a few years, $5 or $10 was a perfectly adequate donation. If you've got a group of, say, 6 people or 7 people, you've covered costs to start with. Depending on where you're holding your session, I guess, you've got to be able to cover the cost of your room, and buying your stuff. And obviously, if you were going to charge for it, you would actually work out what you need to cover your costs first, and then what would be a fair wage. Now, in Australia, anything more than $50 an hour for doing a meditation session, I think to be a real inflation. I think an expectation, if you're running a business, of $100 an hour is not unreasonable, because you've got business overheads. But anyway, I'm waffling. Moving along. So I suppose I have to be fair-minded in regard to these inflated prices that people are charging. I do recall, since the moment I started doing my energy work and doing Reiki Attunements, there was this common statement that was said everywhere, which was, well, if we don't charge for it, people are not going to appreciate what they get. You know, people don't appreciate anything they get for free. Well, I'm not convinced that's actually true, because I've obviously received gifts many times and been extremely grateful for it. And I also have done a lot of gifting myself. I do recognise, though, because of the amount of gifting that I've done, there is a lot of people that will exploit another person's generosity, and they don't necessarily appreciate what they get for free. But I'm not convinced that it justifies charging these really enormous rates and fees, okay? One thing I will mention, though, just in case you thinking about taking advantage of one of my offers when I put them up. And when I say taking advantage, I don't mean that in a bad way. It means that I intend fully to put an offer up in the not too distant future, gifting tarot readings to people. There won't be a lot of them. I might cap it. I'm thinking about doing about 5 a week. But where I'm going with this is, one of the things that really, really bothered me when I was offering on Facebook, and if it starts on YouTube, I'll just stop doing it. You'll never get another one, right? Is these people that will come and ask me for a free reading and tell me they can't afford to pay me. And of course, my little heart would go, oh, you poor thing. So I would give them a reading. All right, I never invaded their space to try and see whether or not they actually could afford it. But then they would go away, you know, because they're these people that it's probably not kind to you. There's a lot of people out there that will actually go and just get reading after reading after reading. It becomes psychologically destabilizing for them, by the way. But anyway, these very same people would go off, get their free reading from me, go off, pay for a reading with somebody else, and be very unhappy with the reading that they got. They might be frightened or whatever, and then come back to me and ask me to clarify, and should they be frightened in XYZ. Now, of course, that I think is actually more than taking the mickey. That's actually really disrespectful. And so where I'm going with this is, going forward, if anybody does that to me, I won't be clarifying the reading that you paid somebody else to have. You can actually deal with it, or you can pay me. If you found the money to pay somebody else after taking a free reading from me, and then come back and expect me to give you a second one because you paid somebody else, that's not going to happen anymore. That's my boundary. That's my line in the sand going forward. But going back to this business of judgment and this, people don't value it if they don't pay for it, I don't believe that, okay? I am a believer that it is good to actually try and keep your prices reasonable, especially if you're sharing wisdom information and spiritual type information, because it comes from that space of love. And, you know, One of my motivators to doing the freebies was actually because I had lived with poverty and I understood what it was like to not be able to access things because I didn't have the money to pay for them. So for me, I don't think it's fair. That's part of my conscience, is that I don't think it's fair that people should miss out on opportunities for empowerment simply because they can't afford to. And it's usually the poor people that need this information the most, okay? But if I do, I think I'm a little bit older and wiser now, that if I do feel that somebody was taking advantage of me, I would actually cut it very quickly. I'd nip it in the bud going forward. So I thought I would put this to you as well, in view of the talking about teachers and places where we can learn information or actually have an experience. What I was actually looking for, as I said to you, I don't know if you recall, I mentioned that I was actually looking to go to a sound healing. I think they call them sound baths, but they're so pricey. I couldn't do it. Anyway, I found a couple of videos here. I've had a look at them. These are kind of the ones that I'm interested in, but I'm wondering, do you have any recommendations? I'm not big on the gongs, so people know I find that the gongs are too startling for me. I do love the Tibetan bowls, and by that I mean the metal ones, as well as these, what are they called? The glass ones, the crystal bowls. I love them as well, and I love flutes. So, um, is there any music you might recommend for myself or other people to actually access and use? I mean, if we've got to use YouTube, so be it. If there's something on Spotify or somewhere else, feel free to make a recommendation, because I know I would like it. Thank you. Now, speaking of services and fees and this kind of stuff, I've actually been doing the Reiki stuff. I've been really busy this week, okay, which is probably one of the reasons, if you're picking up. I don't know if you're picking up anything actually from my voice, but either way, I've been deeply focused and intently working on the content to be able to give to you guys. And as I go through this process, I'm actually, oh my gosh, I'm just finding it so amazing. I had forgotten that I have so much information here about Reiki. So, for all those people who might go poo poo about Reiki, because I do know that it's got some negative critics about it, the problems that I would suggest that you have with Reiki is not about the process itself, but rather the teachers, okay? And this is what happens when we have people that pretend to be gurus sharing information as though they're an authority, but they're actually perhaps not. And I'm trying to be kind here, not nearly as great as they might think they are. Now, I want to be clear here, I don't think I'm great, all right? It really is. There is this amazing wealth of information. And now, as I'm preparing for this, I'm putting together manuals, because I thought, look, there's going to be people that are going to ask questions such as, well, what can I expect from Reiki? What can it do for me? So where I'm at with that is I've created one manual, which is what we call, or what I'm calling, a pre-attunement manual, to answer a few of those questions and to encourage people to actually get a Reiki 1 attunement. Now, the thing is, with the Reiki 1 attunement, I'm still working on this. This is a massive document. I'm hoping I'm going to have it finished in the next couple of days. And this is because I'm actually doing it a little bit differently, in that the information that I'm going to give to you as a Reiki 1 manual will be more than the average Reiki 1 attunement. And I'm just going to, before I talk about the content, I'm going to discuss with you the approach that I'm going to take. My understanding was that Yusui, who obviously created Reiki, that he used to deliver it for free, Reiki 1, which is the hands-on healing. He used to attune people in villages for free so that anybody could access it at any given time. Now, that was my initial intention, and it still remains pretty well that I'm happy to attune people for free to Reiki 1. Not an issue. I did think about doing Reiki 2 for free as well, and I haven't reached a firm decision there, just letting you know. But what I'm thinking is, there is so much work in this manual that I'm putting together for you guys. Well, for anybody that wants to do the Reiki attunement, once they have said yes and they want the Reiki attunement, I'll actually organise for them to have it, and then I will send them the manuals, or they will be able to access the manuals with this information. It's going to have too much information. There's going to be more than what they actually need as a Reiki 1 practitioner. Now, where I'm incorporating and developing this a little bit is I'm putting in some extra information for them that they might not actually get normally, unless they did say Reiki 2 or Reiki 3 attunements. But my plans are that, times change. It was the attunements were created goodness me, probably 100 odd years ago. We're now in the 21st century, and I think society's got different needs and to be well and healthy. So where I'm going with this is, yes, I'm adapting it. There's a lot of information in it. I probably will put it on my website where you can actually download a PDF by donation. But I'm interested to know, of course, your feedback, your thoughts. I would like everybody to be able to access the information on Reiki, to be attuned to Reiki, to be able to incorporate it. Remember, it's not faith specific. You can be any religion and practice Reiki, the same as you can be any religion and incorporate Buddhist principles into your daily living. The same goes for Reiki, okay? So anyway, yeah, busy days. What was I going to say? I have so much information I didn't realize, because I have been so blessed over the years. I didn't realize just how much literature and information that I had managed to source along the way with the Reiki stuff and with the use of energy. But anyway, I'm happy to share this information with you as best I can. Please do leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your interests are. Once again, if you would be interested in having Reiki 1, if you've already done it, what has been your experiences? If you've done it and you felt it didn't work, maybe you bought one of those dodgy, what are they called, online. I saw Facebook spamming people out years ago, and I thought, I don't know how that's going to work. But anyway, yeah, feel free to leave a comment, please. Good, bad, ugly, I'm open for it all. And oh my goodness me, my huge apologies to you. I didn't realize until I actually was recording this and saw my notes, I have forgotten to review the Guardian Angel content, so it's not loaded. This is why I'm apologizing. I've been so consumed, I guess, and distracted with reviewing the Reiki content, I actually forgot to review the Angel. So the Guardian Angel video is now finished. I just need to look at it, make sure the timing's right, that kind of stuff, and then I can load it on YouTube. I haven't done the little short for it yet, but that's not going to be a big deal. It's not hugely time consuming. So bottom line is, I might need to reshuffle my priorities and try and finish it today or tomorrow, and then I can load it on the channel for you, and at least we will see that up and done. So whoops-a-daisy, sorry about that. So, of course, this week, if I can speak and wrap my lips around the words, if you've been watching the channel, you will have seen the video for Ramaela, the Angel of Joy, go up. Now, when we talk about joy, we're talking about conscious decision making. We can't control events around us, but we can control our attitude, type of thing. So there's a few tips that we get from Ramaela when you go and check that one out. I had to take a break temporarily, and that was because it started raining so badly. The weather is so weird that it started raining so heavily, and the wind was strong, and it was picking it up and blowing it about 7 foot against my window. So I paused the video recording for a minute. But anyway, cracking on, moving on to the next one. Next week, you get to look at Nathaniel, the angel of fire. Now, when we talk about fire, just a reminder, we're also talking about transformation. And I know when I was actually recording this video, it really resonated very deeply with me, especially some of the... I don't want to give you too much. I would recommend this video, is where I'm going. Especially if you're dealing with a lot of stuff that's holding you back and stopping you from moving forward. This will give you some information, technique, and strategy to be able to move past those boggy things, shall we say. So just touching very briefly upon the power of colour and the content on the colour playlist. Now remember, there should be, by this stage, if you were to go and visit that playlist, you should be able to see a whole range of them, and they all carry different messages, different strategies. When you're looking at shades and hues of colours, you've got a lot of similarity there between the shades, but they all have specific benefits, shall we say. And if we're looking at colours as messengers, don't forget that each colour conveys a particular message. So just touching very briefly upon the power of colour and the content on the... This week, hopefully you saw that the colour Auburn was loaded, and that colour, if you're struggling with things like grounding and maintaining healthy boundaries with people and this kind of thing, you'll probably get benefit from the messages of the power of Auburn. The power of the colour chocolate went up this week as well. And not that I actually think about these things or plan them out when I'm actually loading the content, but that actually was quite timely because it's been loaded at the same time as Ramaela, the angel of joy. So when we're talking about experiencing joy, we're also talking about allowing ourselves to experience greater sweetness in life as well. So very appropriate. Anyway, that one's gone up as well. So this week, the colour of bronze is scheduled, ready to be published so that you can access it. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'll let you go and check it out yourself. Of course, that's another strong messages, shall we say. The power of the colour rose is also scheduled. I think this one's scheduled for Friday next week. And this will give you a little bit of strategy. If I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure this one's actually about romance and intimate partnerships. So, before I close out for today, I just want to thank you all for being part of my journey today. As usual, I appreciate if you've hung in there for this long and actually share with you some other stuff that's been going on in my world. It's been an interesting week. My son has been traveling in Vietnam. God bless him. Got to have a laugh. I did warn him, don't eat from street food vendors when you're in Vietnam. Well, of course he did, didn't he? He wasn't going to get sick. Well, he's had a nasty dose of E. coli, and he's actually in hospital. He's supposed to be discharged today and fly back to Australia, which is good news. So we're looking forward to that. And what else? Just that I've got a tarot and tea workshop happening this week. I'm not coordinating it, I'm attending it, and I'm actually looking forward to it because I'm going to put my cards to the test again, shall we say, and pay attention to my hearing. I'm looking forward to an opportunity to do this, and I'll let you know how it goes next week, okay? Because I'll let you know if I'm feeling confident and ready to get back into actually delivering readings. But anyway, in the meantime, till then, thank you very much for sticking with us. Please, I encourage you again, do leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. I'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye for now. Stay blessed, my friends.